Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show, podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.
Welcome to another episode of Stories from the Garage. And on this episode, we've got with us Jake Dimavitis. Jake, thank you for joining us on the podcast.
No problems.
Mate, when we talk, our previous episodes to this have been people with hotted up Holdens and they're great. But I think your story, I had you in the back of my mind for some time now, and I wanted to reach out to you and get something a little bit different, a little bit left of field. And it's not to say that your collection is left of field, but it is kind of for the people we've spoken to on our previous episodes, and even following on in the Talk and Power podcast, we talk drag racing and a whole lot of motorsports. But we never get involved in really minis and tractors. And I know they're both passions of yours. So tell us a little bit. Firstly, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and I know you from a machinery background, and you currently work for a Case dealership, and you would, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you would live and breathe Case all day, every day, and Sylvan as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself before we get too in depth with your collection there.
Yeah, so I'm a young teenager, as you can see, of the age of 24. The hobby of tractors or anything vintage related started in my younger ages or younger days sort of thing. Most likely started maybe around the ages of 15 odd sort of thing, getting into machinery and seeing them operate and things like that, coming in part of organisations and clubs that are around within Western Australia to be involved in.
Yeah.
And then the hobby just grew there. So anything old or vintage in a way grabs my attention, and away we go sort of thing. Agriculture or anything, as I say, in my collection, everything's old in the collection anyhow, but it's just something that grows and grows and grows, and the interest and the passion for it, the knowledge that you accumulate from it, it just keeps building. And it's just, I think it gives people and other people down their collection seeing a younger person for their passion for vehicles and my hobbies as that could be.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I've known you for a long time, but I just wanted to let our listeners know as well, like, you not only you're into your cars and your tractors and agricultural equipment, but also you're a member of the Western Australian Bus Preservation Society as well. And I know, like, even as a kid, I had because I used to catch a bus to school. So, you know, I had a bit of an interest in buses. I mean, you've got a bus license, you drive, you regularly drive some of those old buses. So tell us a little bit about that.
So it's mostly part of the, so the society, as I say, is all part of preserving WA transport history. Is there what our saying is in the society there? As I'm the events coordinator for the society, we make events that we can take some vintage buses back from time and give people a run, like bring back their childhood memories of riding on a bus, and people saying, I used to sit in this seat and that's the seat I sat in, and I remember the prams on the back and conductor and a driver and issuing a ticket and so forth. And it just tries to give that feel of what it was back then, bring it to like the modern day, comparing it to a modern day vehicle. So it just gives you a feel of, then also as a member, it also gives you a feel of, yes, you've got a license to drive that vehicle. Plus it also allows you to experience that and actually take that feeling to the next level by carrying passengers and things like that as well. Like carrying passengers, issuing tickets, giving a passenger a feel of what it used to be. Happened back in the day of these buses when they were built in the 1950s and 1970s and so forth like that.
Yeah.
just expressing, carrying it over. Sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy it. And when I caught up with you at the Shannon's car show, the last car show that we
Yeah.
for some period of time now, but you had a number of buses there in the Leyland and the Hinos and the Mercedes, and I mean we've morphed into Volvos now and whatnot. But it was really for me as well. Like explaining to my young son, he doesn't catch a bus to school; he gets driven to school. But explaining to him, well, the door never used to be here on some of these buses. The door was down the back, and you had an example of that as well.
Yeah.
And we used to put the prams on the back as well. So, look, I thought that was really awesome. So that's great you do that. Look, Jake, let's get stuck into it. That right there, we can see your mini. Now, let me get this right. Now, that one there is a Leyland. It's not a Morris. That was by the time that one came out, that was a Leyland. Yeah, so Leyland Cooper. No, sorry, Leyland Clubman S. So just explain. That's a 75 model you got there. Just explain. Yeah. That's a true survivor car, that one, isn't it? You were telling me about it. And so tell us a little bit about it.
So the car is a 1975 Leyland Clubman S. S stands for sedan in this particular model. This has got the 1.1 litre 1098cc engine.
Yep. I'm just showing some photos of the car as we speak, actually.
Yep. So I'm the second owner of the car. I inquired it from a bloke back in 2013 when we got it from a person in Sorrento. It was originally his auntie's car.
Yep.
His aunt's car actually had it, so then she used it as a shopping car and like a shopping car, church car, just a weekend drive sort of thing, and then maybe just a little errands drive, run around while she's doing it during the week.
Yeah.
Then we heard from the owner of the car. He put it up for sale. It was on Gumtree originally. When we found it on there, we thought, I'm looking at a first car when I got my license, and I needed something that gained my interest. And this 1970, I always had a thing of a Mini in my mind, as to say when we got it. So we thought, looked at this, and it was at the right. I think it was about $6,450. I think it was for the price back in the day, back in 2013 when we got it there, and you didn't have a deposit on the day. It was a simple, old-fashioned handshake deal. Took his hand. That's how he did the business, and you give me the $500 when you do the deposit, and then pay the excess when you get it, sort of thing. Yeah. So that's how we did it for him there. I haven't touched anything to the car. 100% original, as he's told me from how it is. It's still got original paint run on the side of the car when they painted the cars. All had paint run sort of thing. This is a little dribble just by the left-hand pillar sort of thing. So. Yeah.
Now, tell me, that car was sold by Ray. Is it Ray Council Motors, Mosman Park? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's an original WA car. Landed here in WA, and you've managed to keep it in Perth. So that is awesome. That's got a 1275. And
it still carries the 1098.
1098. Sorry.
A 1.1. 1.1. It works out to be 50 brake horsepower.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's got a single SU carburetor as well. The 1275 had twin.
Okay. All right. We'll just pause here for a second, just get some, just watch you get starting her up, and just hearing this beast purr. So, Jake, that's now. Just tell us a little bit. The Clubman that's what defines a Clubman. What we're looking at right now is the front end, isn't it? So it's got the squarer front end, and a long. It's longer, isn't it? From memory.
It's slightly longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Slightly longer.
Yep. Now, tell us, that ran in Australia till 79 or 1980, around there.
Yeah. And
okay.
as I say, then they would have phased out there. we've also got the original brochure and all that as well that came with the car. So we've got a lot of memorabilia, bookwork, things like that came with the car as well. So we've got original brochure on the car as well that shows you the colours that they used to be, gives you the specifications of the Clubman and the Clubman GT as well. So
yeah, okay. Beautiful car, I must say. I really like it myself. I think it really is the iconic car, isn't it? From one of the most iconic cars in the history of the world. I mean, you can show anyone a picture of a Mini and they'll identify it as a Mini.
Okay.
You show a picture of a Falcon to a late model Australian Falcon to an American, they wouldn't have a clue what it is. But you can present a picture of a Mini to anyone and they know exactly what it is. It is really one of the most iconic cars in motoring, really. I think it's a magnificent car and a true survivor car. And people looking at the video now will see. If you listen to this as a podcast, I urge you to watch it as a YouTube video as well, because this one's got a lot of video content and pictures. So Jake's been really helpful in giving us a whole lot of photos. Speaking of iconic vehicles, Jake, that tractor behind you arguably is probably the most iconic tractor. Someone once said, no other tractor has contributed to feeding the world like this tractor. And I would say that's potentially correct. I mean, I've got some numbers here because I've done a bit of research myself.
Yeah.
So the 35, now that I probably should let you explain a little bit, but that's a Ferguson 35 behind you, isn't it? Now, that's actually rarer than the Massey Ferguson 35. So that's a 35. There was, over the 8-year production, there was just under 400,000 of those things built. Then, I mean, arguably, Banner Lane took it over and they produced 3.3 million of those things. But that's a genuine, yours is from
57.
57, sorry. So tell us a little bit about your...
The one behind me, so the Ferguson 35 in behind is actually got red guards with a grey chassis. There's photos that we've got there as well that shows the gold flakes coming through under the grey. The previous owner painted red and grey as they thought it was a red Massey Ferguson, and badged it as a red Massey Ferguson. Then we came into the stage of saying, okay, when we bought the tractor, it didn't actually have the colour on it. We just thought, oh, it's just a red Massey Ferguson. Until we went on the serial number and the compliance plate and things like that we found. And then eventually we matched it to say, okay, we did the research and it says, oh, it was on 57. Did a bit more history to it. And then we found out, oh, they made them, the grey and gold model is what this one would be. So the red panels could be grey, and then the chassis could be the copper gold that's come through the flakes there. The copper gold. Then they made the grey and gold Ferguson 35 was only made from August 56 to August 57 before they became Massey Ferguson in 58 and carried on with the red and grey. Still carried the Vanguard 4-cylinder Vanguard motor until they came into the Massey Ferguson, when they came into Perkins and things like that, further up from there.
So Jake, tell us that's what they so yours is what they referred to as a gold belly, is that correct?
Yeah, a gold belly, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that is quite a rare unit. So how many we'll call it gold belly, would be here in Australia, do you think?
I know of another one that's held at the Tractor Museum in WA out in Whiteman Park. A member there has got one that's in the petrol and also been painted in the grey and gold colour scheme, and he's worked in the Swan Valley as an orchard machine. That's how they had a downwards exhaust that went underneath the machine and the tractor there, and then he's also put a Ferguson tipper hitch on the back. So then you can put a 3-ton tipper on it. This is just standard 3-point linkage on the back. Your 540 ground speed PDO. So also another thing to mention that I've got on the serial number on the plate there, it's SGM, and the letters are standing for certain parts of the tractor, certain features that the tractor's got. Then it's 66218, I think, is on what my one is.
Mhm.
SGM, so S is standard width
Yep.
of the tractor. SG is dual clutch, what
Yep.
it means. So you gain the secondary PDO ground speed.
Yep.
You had ground speed on engine PDO. Then M stands for deluxe seat. So mine's got a cushion seat, not a curved springs like
Mhm.
plough seat sort of thing, as what the old, when they came out originally, would have had just a ploughman seat on
Yeah.
there. Curved
Yep.
spring with a mesh seat on it. This
Mhm.
has actually got a deluxe seat with a cushion. So
Yep.
flip up seat, and then you've got.
So tell us, Jake, where did you originally get that one from then? How long have you had it for?
I've had it for 8 years.
Yep.
I acquired it as a private seller.
Mhm.
It was originally up for sale at Wanneroo Agricultural Machinery as a private sale.
Yep.
We went past one weekend and we saw it. We went to look at tractors when I was a younger kid sort of thing 8 years ago, and we've looked at like, I'll go have a look sit on the case tractors that they had there. And then I thought, then they got this old tractor in the corner there. And then the owner of the business came in his ute there, and he goes, looking at the tractor. And then he goes, I'll start it up for you. And he started the tractor up. And since he did that, that was it. He got me hooked straight away. Mum and Dad hassled him for weeks and weeks and weeks. You got to buy this tractor. Got to get it. Got to get it. So we paid $3,000 for this tractor.
Well, we should elaborate there a little bit, shouldn't we? It'd be remiss of us not to elaborate a little bit further there. Not only did you get hooked on the tractor, but you also you've now been working for that gentleman for some time now. You work for Wanneroo Agricultural Machinery, and the gentleman we're referring to is none other than Laurie Duffy. Now, those people that are listening to us who are in the Swan Valley and out through Wanneroo and that and Yangship and Karabuda and those areas, they would know the Duffy family quite well. They've been around. Laurie himself was actually a Leyland dealer before he became a case dealer. Was actually a Leyland dealer as well. So, I can. It's amazing how things evolve, don't they? And he's kind of, I think, a lot of his passion. You've sort of taken that over now, haven't you?
That over, yeah. As I say, what Laurie used to say, he sold the tractors, trucks, mini mokes, but he didn't do the mini.
Yeah.
He did the moke. He did the mokes there, but he didn't do the minis. So he did everything that side of it. But yeah, you hear histories of what it was called, Wanneroo Leyland back in the day. So, as being a Leyland dealer of the north side. So,
Yep, and loyal employee yourself. So, Jake, moving on. That's not the only one you've got in your collection of tractors. There's another one that you still got to kind of relocate. We'll put it that way. But that's actually even more intriguing. That tractor. It's a W. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a W4 Deering McCormick. Is that correct?
McCormick Deering W4 is how you can word it on the bottom. There, right?
Well, I got it completely wrong then.
No, you've got it there. You've got it in the right direction, but you've got it spelt backwards. There you go.
Now, the volume of these tractors were arguably a lot less than the 35, aren't they? Because their numbers were, they even though they produced them over a 13-year span from 1940 to 1953, the numbers weren't as high, were they, as a 35? So they're obviously a little bit rarer, aren't they?
In a way, they are. Yeah. It was also as well the horsepower. The 35 is 35 horsepower with the W4. It's only a little 23 horsepower engine, but it's maybe a few more 100 kilos more. It weighs 2 tons instead of like 1,500 or 1,800 kilos on what 35 weighs. So it's got a bit more of a bulkiness to it in a way. Like this particular W4 has actually got cast. Everything's cast just about on it. It's got a cast subframe that holds the engine. It's got cast front center weight on a wheel weights. It's got cast wheel weights on the rear. Got additional bolt-on wheel weights as well. on the rear as well. So it's a very heavy tractor sort of thing.
Yeah,
A very small horsepower that it is.
Yeah,
So,
it is. We're just having a look at images of it right now, and you can see it is a significantly heavier tractor than the 35. Not to say that the 35 is not a good tractor, but yeah, it is. The W4 is significantly heavier, isn't it?
mm. But also as well that the W4 is a 1948 model. This one is, and it's also part of the serial number explains that it is a low compression engine. They did low compression and high compression engine. This is a low compression engine. Plus, it's also got a low first gear.
Yep.
When some also have high first gears as well in speed wise. There's no low range or high range like the 35 would have. The W4 is just straight 5-speed box with a reverse. It was originally crank start, so it's crank start with magneto side on it, but this has been converted to a button start.
Yep.
Half the time you don't think you're not game enough to go near the handle with the magneto, so you leave it alone. The handle there is just for a look half the time. It's not there to use it, but you use it if you need to.
Yeah,
It's like the last resort sort of.
Yeah, yep. So that one, you just got to relocate that one, and you can get started working on that one as well, I guess.
So where it's located now is when I was a student up at the Catholic Agricultural College up in Bindoon. I inquired about the tractor when I was in year 10. That was about 7-8 years ago when I was there, and I inquired about the tractor when I was a student there, and I said, what's the reason of if they're going to sell it, make me as a first preference. They said, it's not for sale because it was donated to this college by a farmer in Bindoon. They just did a minor paint job work sort of thing, tried to get it running again, and what was running at the time, they just smartened it up a little bit whilst it was there. Then they decided, okay, we'll just put it in the like their design and technology building as it was running, and it was pumped up on all 4 tires sort of thing. Then, as I say, got to a stage they needed to move it out, so they moved it out and put it into the shed where it's sitting now. It's been sitting in the shed for the last 6 years on its side, sort of thing like that. As I say, all 4 tires need to be replaced. They called me up 2 years ago and said, "Are you interested in the tractor?" And then all I got to do is, another bright idea, smiling on my face, sort of thing. Ring mum and dad up and say, "Guess what? Sort of thing. This is what they've offered me the tractor, and they said if they can hold it for a couple of months, they allow a couple of months so we can relocate it somewhere behind us with these ones here, and we'll go from there." And they take as long as you need. Well, there you are. Taken 2 years to get where I need to be, and we're ready to go just about. So go give a couple more months, and then we'll getting some parts located from the US, and the tractor was built in the USA there, so we got to get it from there, and then once we get those bits, then we're ready to bring it back to life.
Yeah, it's a really classic looking sort of tractor, that one, and it is. I am amazed that it's actually you could almost argue it's 10 years older than your 35, but the build quality on that is quite good for 1948. We're just talking out of World War II here, so it is amazing, it really is. Hey, Jake, look, while we got you, I'd like to shift a gear. We'll talk about your collection of stationary engines as well. Can you explain a little bit about the PT Cooper, the PT Cooper shearing plant? Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
So the PT Cooper, I got given that worked out to be 7 years ago when I was a student at the Agricultural College in Bindoon there. In 2013, the farm manager gave me the engine as the engine sits by itself without the motor on it, sort of thing. He didn't have a fuel line or anything like that. I said to him, I'm a member of the Machinery Preservation Club. I was joined as a new member, and he goes, "Oh, okay, no worries." He goes, "Oh, I've got this little motor in the shed that I can give you." he gave me that little motor, and he said, see what you can make up of what it goes and what it runs and what it used to do. So then slowly, as you join through members there, and members know what they know, sort of thing, and they said, okay, that used to run on a shearing plant, or it used to be a Cooper shearing plant. The motor used to run. See, so slowly, we built up the shearing plant to how it sits now on a what they call a Cooper small flock shearing plant. So single stand. The motor will run with the belt drive from the motor to the handpiece, and then when the shearer needs to grind his combs and sharpen his cutters there, he'll take the blade off the drive and put it onto the grinder there and run the grinder pulley, and just it's like a mobile shearing plant sort of thing. They can take it around anywhere with them, or if they've only got small head of sheep or something like that, it's an ideal unit for it. Before they came, they had the Coopers, and then they also came into listers. So the PT Cooper, they did a PT and they did an RV. So it's currently sitting on an RV fuel tank, is what underneath the motor. And then the PT is, as I say, it's got to sit on an RV tank to be mounted to the small flock shearing plant stand. Then, as I say, this one here's got the fuel tank on the PT's got the tank above. Sort of thing.
Yeah. Let's just have a listen of that starting up now, and we got you've been kind enough to do some video footage for us, so let's just have a listen to that here. So you look, it's amazing, Jake. I mean, you obviously have a passion for that sort of stuff as well, and the collection just keeps growing. And it's great to see young guys like yourself with a passion in this sort of stuff. Before we finish up, one thing we forgot to do when we were talking about the 35, there's some video footage of that as well. So let's just have a look at that here. You starting that up as well. So, Jake, tell me a little bit about when you're starting up the tractor. It's not as if you just go out there and crank it over and away you go. There's a little bit of preparation you need to do. Can you explain a little bit about the preparation as well? Because I know when you shot that video, you had to do a little bit of preparation. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Also, before the video was shot, or before we started the video, we actually had to, with this one here as well, it's got a fuel tap on the fuel bowl sort of thing. So you have to turn the fuel on as the old-fashioned way, turn the fuel on, turn the fuel off, as I say, or it will just keep feeding, and you'll come out the next day and where's all your fuel gone sort of thing. It's all out the carburetor. Yeah. So, as I say, that was one part we didn't video was, as I say, putting the fuel on. So put the fuel on a couple of turns, hop on the tractor there. As I say, set your hand throttle halfway. It's got a choke on the left-hand or right-hand side of the steering column down below near the gear levers there. So you pull that out and it's got key start, or you can crank start it. So I have crank started it before when the battery was not the best, but it still had enough there to crank start it. Within 2 cycles of the engine there, sort of thing, it will start straight away. So
okay. It's incredible. It really is. I love it. I mean, we used to have one as well. I don't remember what year ours was, or if it was actually a Banner Lane version. To be honest, I don't recall. It was a grey that had been painted red as well. Sorry, no, I think ours was a red one. It was a genuine red. So I don't know what year it was from, but they I think every market garden back in the day had one, or had they were flown about, but they're getting hard to get now. You don't see them as often. So
there is a lot of Massey Fergusons or 35s or grey Fergies, TE20s, TA20s. They're all, as I say, Swan Valley, things like that as well. So your TEs, so TEs Tractor England.
Yep.
TEs Versus England is what the letters stand for. And then you got your like TEA 20, so Tractor England Australia. So they all had their little perks on what their letters stand for in a way of us 20 years what near the horsepower of what the machine is. So there's still a small handful around, but you still don't. Yeah, they're still hard to find in a way.
Sure. Yeah. Well, look, Jake, tell us a little bit about, before we finish up, tell us a little bit about where we can find information about the Bus Preservation Society, and also you're part of an agricultural club as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know you're down at the Royal Show every year, spruiking all the tractors and also the steam. We haven't mentioned your interest in steam engines. I've seen you at the 2J show, rolling up there with, some pretty serious looking steam equipment. Just briefly tell us a little bit about that as well.
So the steam tractor is a 1904 Clayton and Shuttleworth traction engine. So steam traction engine, or steam tractor as you could call it.
Yep.
Wood fired with water steam boiler. So tube with fire tubes. So heat runs through the tubes and out the chimney with water around them. It's a 6 nominal horsepower engine, so single cylinder engine with, as they class, 0 RPM with max torque, so plenty of pulling power.
Mm-hmm.
This particular tractor also had a 9-ton cable winch on the side of the left-hand wheel.
Yep.
So, for example, we did winching demonstrations with a 75 horsepower Farmall JX75 Case IH tractor from Wanneroo Agriculture Machinery that was proudly supplied last year, and we did winching demonstrations of the 1904 steam traction engine, and we winched the cable out and we pulled the brand new tractor up with the brakes dragging and things like that, and you could really hear what steam power really has to show. And you got crowds of people. We run portable engines, so like a stationary engine, but as I say, it's what they call a portable engine. That's also it's a Ruston Proctor. That's a 1904 steam traction engine. That's also owned by the Royal Ag Society of Western Australia. They own that traction engine at the moment. With my part of the show, or the Perth Royal Show, is I run in the Heritage Hall. So I'm like the youngest member out of all the retirees that are normally there that run the Heritage Hall side of it.
Yep.
Dress up in the old gear with your top hat on, top cap sort of thing. You got your overalls. Your hands are black from all the oil, or feet in the fire, all this sort of thing. And it's just a passion. It's like a passion you have. Then come 1:30 when they say, "Oh, we're looking for tractor drivers for the tractor parade." Well, there I am, hopping in the tractor, going for a couple of laps of the main arena in an old Chamberlain 9G or old W4 or W6 or big case or whatever. I said, give me anything, I'll drive anything. I'm not particular in any way.
Yeah.
It's exactly like the Tractor Museum. I'm a member there at the Tractor Museum of WA out of Whiteman Park. Every second Sunday they'll have a tractor parade. During the circumstances they don't, but when we can, I'll be out there again, hopping on a tractor seat, driving a tractor around. It's like they've got every make and model there, and I'm not bothered on which tractor you're going to drive. I'll drive whatever's last. I'm not bothered if it's the biggest thing or it's the smallest thing. As long as it's something, we'll be right. So
that's it. Yeah. No,
and then the Bus Preservation Society, to locate where the buses are. They've also got a website of bpswa.org is the email or website address there. And then, as I say, it will give you selection of small range of collection, upcoming events, bus services we run whilst we're at Whiteman Park with a shuttle service or a historic bus experience. Plus it gives you a bit of history of buses within the collection, updated newsletters, things like that are all listed on the file. So.
That really is quite an amazing collection of buses you have, I must say. That really does blow me away, because it just brings back so many great memories of going to school, and I really do enjoy looking at the buses. And at the Shannon's Car Show, I thought that was just such a small collection of buses that you have, I know, in your collection. So we urge our listeners to get out there and have to Whiteman Park and when things get back to normal, of course. But I urge all of our listeners to get out there and have a look. And it's not just like, we take buses for granted, but they do keep a lot of people in Western Australia and certainly in Perth, keeps them moving, keeps them getting to work. And without buses, I'd hate to think where Perth would be, or any city really for that matter. I'd really hate to think.
City,
Yeah. Jake, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. I think it was awesome. As I said to you before,
Thank you for having me.
No, it's the pleasure's been all mine, because I really did when I started pitching the stories from the garage idea to myself, because we don't have a board of directors. You were one of the first ones that came in my mind, and as I said, we've spoken to the idea is not just cars, but I mean, predominantly cars, and we've spoken with a number of people, but yourself, I thought, just gave it a different view. What really happens in our garage, and what I really like spruiking is, we're trying to get the young people away from Instagram, Facebook, off devices, and doing stuff like you're doing. And I think it's amazing. So it's a credit to you and your family. And I really appreciate your time. And I also want to thank your mum and your dad and your brother as well, because I know they're all part of the team. It's not just yourself. I know you're probably hands-on guy, but I know that
I'm the hands-on side. They're the office side, and they're the ones that financially make these things happen for me. At the moment of time, sort of.
Yeah, so. I know they do, and but I think they share your passion as well, and that's what it's all about. If they share the passion, makes it easier for you, and it makes it easier for everyone. And if you share the passion and amongst the family, I think that's a great thing, beautiful thing. So I'd like to pass on my thanks to them as well. And thanks for your time, and really appreciate it. All right, Jake.
Thank you.
No worries, mate.
Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.